exiting the pit lane. This is a slick racetrack. You think cold tires, James showed us the track temperature earlier, 69 degrees. It's going to make a big challenge for the, and look at the slide that he has right there. Everybody, we've heard all these drivers talk about all week, Eric, how important it is to get all the way to the bottom, and Decatur couldn't even hold the bottom in turns 3 and 4. He was fighting the wheel on the entry to 3. And that's where that bump is on this racetrack, too, that a lot of these drivers talk about. So the semifinalists for the 2024 Kawicki Driver Development Program, being a Rev Racing driver, and TJ Decatur, his time is going to clock in for now at a 15.349. Second time by is going to be a little bit quicker for Decatur, 15.338. Is what he's able to get, which, you know, considering he lost it out of the pit road, not too bad.
The most fascinating thing about this qualifying session as our next car comes out on the racetrack for his dead lap is that Caden Quapple, even with that bobble coming to the white flag, is still the provisional pole sitter. He must have kept his foot in it, even though he was swatting flies off the fourth corner. Speaking of Caden Quapple, this driver is debuting a car in which Caden raced back in 2022. It's a family-owned operation, Kyle Campbell Racing, for the driver out of Conover, North Carolina, and the RPM Racing engines, Hellraiser Jack and Caracees Photography number 03. And Campbell to the top of the charts on his first lap through, and he has a big moment off of turn number 2. Boy, Campbell's car was heading right to the turn 2 concrete, and he kept it off the wall and will finish the run. Luckily for Campbell, that first lap was a 15.1, so he goes to the pole by almost a tenth and a half for Kyle Campbell, who keeps the race car.
I tell you what, Eric, as these drivers watch everybody go out, they're reacting, and especially those that have not gone out yet, I think they are starting to get a little nervous about where exactly these cars are moving out of shape, because it seems to be happening suddenly. As we take a look, coming out of turn number 2 right now, the Alliance Drive-Away Solutions and Leapfrog Landscaping Chevrolet for ALH Motorsports, a driver that admittedly struggled with the balance and handling of his car yesterday. The number 9 out of Weaverville, North Carolina, is 20-year-old Ashton Higgins. His first time you see pop up there on the left-hand side of your screen, 15.443. for the former Anderson Motor Speedway late model stock champion in 2019. Second time by, going to be a bit better, and in fact, he's going to move up a pair of positions up into the third spot, 15.307 for that of the 9 of Andrew Higgins. So a bit of improvement there, but these drivers, they have their hands full right now, Eric.
Again, this is one of the first times we've seen this track kind of baked directly in sunlight pretty much over the course of the last 24 hours or so. Here's a driver that may be a familiar name to you, races pretty much anything on pavement out of Dawsonville, Georgia, in the Bowling Construction, MMI Services, and Southern Music and Games number 29 for his family-owned operation. This is Spencer Davis. He's made several NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series starts. He has not run a Cars Tour sanctioned race since 2017. So a big welcome back to Davis, whose first lap is a 15.451. That puts him 6th of the cars that have officially registered up on the stopwatch as of right now. We'll see if Davis can work his way off of turn number 4 and back to the checkered flag. And he will improve by a big margin, 77 thousandths off the lap, laid down by Kyle Campbell as Spencer Davis goes to second. As the next car hits the racetrack, let's go down to James Pike in the pits.
Yeah, 2 things, Eric, that I noticed right at the beginning of qualifying. One, you two talked about it a little bit ago. There is a gigantic puddle right by the exit of pit road that you can try and kind of avoid a little bit, but you're going to run through it at some point. So a lot of these drivers are going onto the racetrack with some form of water on their tires. And then I also spoke with TJ Decatur. He's told it a few times before he actually got out onto the racetrack, had to pull down to the apron just to get it set up. I looked at him, I asked him, I said, was it nerves? He looked at me pretty simply, he said, yeah. So everybody trying to get the first time jitters out here on opening day for the Pro Late Models of the Cars Tour.
Thank you, James. And you know, you have all those preseason jitters, Eric. This is their first time out for many of these drivers this season, and yet here they are, and they're having to drive through a little bit of moisture at the exit of the pit lane. We just saw Hudson Bolger out of Fort Valley, Georgia, put down his time, and he goes third fastest, 15.260 for that number 17.
Good run for that at Boulder. Here's one of our winners in 2023. Next out on the racetrack, out of Fredericksburg, Virginia, the J&L Motorsports number 77 in the Jones Utilities and Construction Jones Site Work entry. That is Logan Jones, who captured a big win. And there you see, Blake, that is what these drivers are dealing with on the bottom of the racetrack in turn 1 if they dip the left sides down below that white line.
Well, and it's not just if they dip their sides down there, it's off the racing surface. But yeah, you can look and see how everybody's having to drive directly through that puddle. There's nowhere else to exit pit road, so you have a little bit of moisture on your tires coming out of the pits. That's something I'm sure the rest of these drivers are taking great note of.
Jones is going to clock in 8th position unofficially as the next car hits the racetrack. Another one of the newcomers to the Cars Tour Pro late models. This driver out of Holly Springs, North Carolina, driving for Haddock Motorsports in the Booge Sound Distillery, Talton's Metal Products, and Gregory Develop, number 55. This is Holden Haddock coming to the green flag. And he takes a very sharp entry down there into turn number 1. And it looks like he was one of the few who was able to get his car to set in time to get back to the throttle. Let's see what Haddock could do here as he comes down to complete his first time lap. Kyle Campbell still the fastest. First lap there for Holden Haddock. He slots in unofficially. Looked to be at about the 8th position. We'll double check the timing and scoring charts when he comes back around to complete this time trial run. Checkered flag is in the air for car number 55, and Holden Haddock will clock in. Initially it came up at a 15.5, but we will double check on the scoring monitor as our next car hits the racetrack.
And this driver took his time coming out of pit road and swerving that car back and forth on the back straightaway. I'm sure trying to get some moisture off of those tires and trying to build up a little bit of heat before starting his run. It's the 00 R&R Race Parts and Wilson Motorsports Toyota out of Candia, New Hampshire, piloted by Jimmy Renfrew Jr. Will make his way out onto the racetrack now to complete his first lap of single car qualifying here in the ZMAX Cars Tour Pro Late Models. Renfrew was watching an interview he did a little bit earlier this week, talked about how he's been racing since he was 10 years old and is really excited, looking forward to running this Pro Late Model and what is somewhat of a tandem effort with Wilson Motorsports. You know, the success that this team has been able to have over the course of their Cars Tour tenure. We'll see if Renfrew Jr. can join that. 4th fastest for Renfrew. You can see 15.287 right now as he just cracks his way up into the top 5.
Next driver on the racetrack, another one who's a bit of a newcomer to Cars Tour Pro Late Model competition in the Atlanta Paving and TMC 6B out of Woodstock, Georgia, in the Bryson Lopez Racing entry. This is Brandon Lopez. The team, dubbed Bryson Lopez Racing, is made up of Dustin Bryson and this driver, Brandon Lopez. They would typically field cars like Pro Late Models, trucks, and they're trying to dabble into Cars Tour competition for the first time. And the first lap of record for Lopez was 12th of the 12 cars that have shown up on the timing and scoring system thus far, 15.885. Lopez looked to have a little bit of a lock up there, getting off into 3. He's got a familiar name helping him out on the marketing side as Lopez goes a tick faster there that time to move up to 11th. But a driver who competed with us last year, Brett Suggs, is helping that team try to attract some attention to see if they can bring on some new partners as they tackle the 2024 season in Pro Late Models.
Another car creeping its way up to speed to approach its dead lap, that bright white and orange number 39, driven by this driver out of Pomeri, Maine. The GM Builder Chevrolet is Max Cookson. And Eric, I know you were talking to this driver a little bit earlier today and what a character he is, and he even talked pretty openly about the fact that we know that simulation racing has started to play a bigger factor in these drivers getting prepared for these events, and this is one of the tracks that we go to on the ZMAX Cars Tour schedule that is available on iRacing. And Cookson says, hey, it's my favorite track to drive on there. So we'll see if that transfers here over to the real world. 15.486 is the first lap of record from 39 of Max Cookson. And very solidly able to get to the bottom of turns 3 and 4. Looks to be a better lap, and it is going to be, but it's still going to slot that number 39 car in the 9th position. 15.439 for Max Cookson.
Very familiar team, very familiar number, new driver behind the wheel, who is also a bit familiar for those of you who followed us throughout 2023. This is the Setzer Racing and Development number 6. This driver is out of Hampton, Virginia, representing Chevrolet across his race car. It is Tristan McKee, winner at Dillon last season when he was racing with a family-owned entity. Now sliding his young talents over to this well-established entity in which both the Setzer family and several other partners have been able to put together, and they now have a young hot shoe behind the wheel once again, this time at 24. This time it is McKee. Last year, George Phillips drove this car to much success. He continues on in his career down a different trajectory, but Tristan McKee kicks off his 2024 for the moment third fastest as he comes across the line with a 15.239, top 3 separated by just 0.08 of a second.
How many times have we been able to say gaps or intervals like that throughout our calling of the Z-Max Cars Tour last season? Can't anticipate that it's going to be any different with these 28 cars that are set to take time today. Next one up is a name that many folks here at Southern National Motorsports Park are going to be very familiar with. The number 4 of Mike Darn Racing Chevrolet, driven by Adam Murray. He's been a long-time competitor here in these parts in Lucama. Finished second in the limited late model portion of the racetrack revival at North Wilkesboro Speedway a couple of seasons ago. Has a lot of experience at this racetrack running the Thanksgiving Classic, which, by the way, probably one of the best ends to a race that I've seen in recent memory. Was right here at the Thanksgiving Classic last year, as Adam Murray clocks in 9th fastest, 15.342.
Next driver on the racetrack, we mentioned how some of our talent have come from the West Coast. This driver is one of them. Out of Huntington Beach, California, this is a Wilson Motorsports entry in the LPG Transport, Pacific Coast Propane, Factory Canopies, and Stange Oval, number 24. This is Jake Bowman. Was hopping on over to run some Cars Tour Pro late models here underneath the Wilson Motorsports banner, and we'll see what he could do here as he starts to kick off his time trial run. Again, the lap to beat set by that of Kyle Campbell in what he hopes to be his second full-time season in the Pro late models, 15.156. Bowman now coming to the checkers. We'll see if he can pick it up here on his second lap. Currently, Bowman does not. He will remain outside of that top 5. We will wait for a lap to populate on the scoring system.
Wiggling that yellow, that bright yellow and blue, number 43, Megabytes and Vending Service Chevrolet, trying to warm up the tires, is this driver out of Stanley, North Carolina, Nick Loden. Going to come out on the racetrack right now, and what a season that Nick Loden had last year. It was a season of ups and downs, some bad luck, a vicious crash at North Wilkesboro Speedway in the middle of last season, took him out of competition for quite a while here in the Pro Late Models, but that team rebounded and ended up picking up the win later in the season at South Boston Speedway. And a full-time effort here for Nick Loden. I think that 43 car, with the experience he's gained with that Corvette, could certainly pay off. 43 of Nick Loden goes 4th fastest, or will keep that first time that he laid down. His first lap was faster, as we have a spin on the back straightaway as Loden comes around to complete his lap. I believe that is Jessica Can, who has lost control and parked it at the inside just before the entry of turn number 3.
Second car we've seen have some misfortune getting out of the pit lane. Here's Can trying to get up to speed a little bit here, climbing up to the racing line, and it just snapped on her and immediately locks up the tires. The problem is, if Jessica was to get it righted, she slid, especially the front Hoosier tires, a long way and may have put a flat spot definitely on that left front. It looks as though Jessica does have the car righted. She in fact drove a little bit further down the other side of the back straightaway to give herself more time to build more momentum. And we'll see if this car will be able to cooperate with her in her efforts to lay down a qualifying run as she begins her dead lap.
Reminds me of what, Ken Schrader, 2002, Bristol?
Oh, yeah.
Something like that sounds right, driving backwards after spinning on the outlap.
This is the Black Acid Apparel, Ford Brothers Auto Repair, and Driven Sunglasses, number 19 for the Kernersville, North Carolina native for Black Acid Racing. ran weekly shows in South Boston in 2023. Picked up back-to-back top 10 finishes. They had a doubleheader there last June. Made only one Cars Tour start. It was on the late model stock side here 1 year ago, but had to retire due to a mechanical problem. And the unfortunate news for that of Jessica Can is at this point, not see time register just yet on the stopwatch. We'll refresh it up on our end. As Can appears as though she is going to be able to settle out this lap. Unofficially scored an 18th is that of Jessica Can. Second lap is going to be a little bit faster, and it's a 16.004 for Jessica Can, who again did a great job keeping that car off the wall.
And a new look to this Megabytes of Vending Service Chevrolet. This driver out of Claremont, North Carolina, Joshua Horniman. See 243s that have the blue and yellow colors on them. Josh Horniman, somebody that ran a majority of the season last year. He's making his 13th Cars Tour Pro Late Model start and a best finish of 8th last year at Wake County Speedway. What was a thrilling finish to end that one. Hoping to run the full season, but looking for some additional partners to try and help that effort and making that happen. He's even got the old school Monte Carlo decal taillights on that car, something that I really like to see. First lap around for Joshua Horniman, 15.677, which would put him just in front of the car that went out, and Jessica Can would be in the 18th position. And Horniman's second lap is going to net him a pair of spots, 15.575. So Joshua Horniman now in 16th.
Wrapped up the season in 2023 last November at the Caraway Speedway. This driver was making, hard to believe, his Pro Late Model debut under the Cars Tour banner, and it did not take him long to figure it out. He went on to win that race, currently batting 1,000 in Cars Tour Pro Late Model competition. I'm going to try to keep the momentum rolling here for the driver whose versatile career continues to dazzle in many different ways. Fresh off a top 10 finish in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race in Atlanta about a week ago, out of Aledo, Texas, for Maverick Page Motorsports and his Page Construction, Schaefer's Oil, Butler Seats, Doorworks, and LI Design number 51. This is Caden Honeycutt. And the first time through for that of Honeycutt puts him 9th. Let's see what lap 2 has up his sleeve, and it is the pole. Caden Honeycutt by 0.02 of a second just nips Campbell for the top spot.
And there are a couple of hot bullets in the chamber that Honeycutt is going to have to dodge coming up here. Two of the fastest cars that we've seen throughout the course of this weekend going back-to-back, and it starts with this one. The Wright Automotive Group, F&B Corporation, and TRD Toyota for Wilson Motorsports, driven by this man out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the number 20 of Chris Wright. It's going to be a driver that can certainly go up and challenge for the pole position here. It was one of the fastest cars that we've seen, smoothest cars that we've seen all weekend long. First lap around for Chris Wright's going to put that number 20 car in 14th for Wilson Motorsports, 15.422. He's just over about a quarter of a second or so to try and nip into the advantage that Caden Honeycutt put down on his lap, and he's going to be able to do it on lap number 2, 15.114 for Chris Wright in the number 20. And by the way, last year's winner is coming up next.
Yeah, we thought that maybe going early in this session was going to help. Right now, we've had back-to-back drivers set the quick time, and this one may make it a bit of a trend if he is the third car to do so in this order. Driving his family-owned team, but also the house car for Port City Race Cars and CLH & Sons, the number 15H out of Herman, Maine. This is defending race winner here at Southern National Motorsports Park, Mike Hopkins. And the bad news for the competition is when I caught up with Mike earlier today, he said this car feels better than the one he won with last year. Let's see what he can do against the stopwatch first. First time through for Mike Hopkins, matches the car number, that's 15th. He would need a very significant pickup to match what Honeycutt and Wright did on their respective runs. Hopkins to the checkered flag, and he's actually going to slow down, so a bit of an upset here for our defending race winner Hopkins, who has currently scored 15th with a handful of cars to go.
Again, he started 6th last year before eventually winning that race, but he's going to have to come from a little bit deeper in the field to be able to accomplish that same feat today. Next driver up, looking to replicate that effort, the number 97 Global Emission Systems National Extension Foundation Chevrolet from Mooresville, North Carolina. It's the 97 of Dylan Garner, who has hopes and intentions to compete for the Rookie of the Year honors here in 2024. Made a trio of ARCA Menards West Series starts in 2019. Was able to garner 2 top 10 finishes out of that. First lap around for the 97. Looks a little bit loose there off of turn number 2. Does that of Garner. We'll eventually try to get his time to you as soon as it comes up on our timing and scoring. Second lap around for the 97 of Dylan Garner. It is going to refresh, but that blue and black 97 going to be in 19th position for now. 15.543 for Dylan Garner with just a handful of cars left to qualify.
Next driver on the racetrack coming off of what was a big weekend for him at Caraway Speedway not that long ago. Picked up himself a full-bodied stock car victory back on February 3rd. Well documented on his video vlog, A King Racing. For this young driver out of Mooresville in the Walker Motorsports entry in the Furniture by Walker and Walker Race Transportation and RaceShopFlores.com number 15. This is youngster Aiden King, trying his hand to see what he can do and navigate his way through turn number 3. Again, the time to beat, a 15.114 set by Chris Wright as King comes across the line to complete his first timed lap, and it is 24th unofficially. As a matter of fact, it looks as though that the second lap registered. That puts King into the top 10 for now, so he is 9th the first time through. He runs a 15.290 that second time by. It updates now to 6th at a 15.247 for Aiden King, who just missed out on the top 10.
This is one of the drivers that we got to see James Pike talk with a little bit earlier on in this qualifying session. Mentioned this was his first venture down here to Southern National Motorsports Park in the Joe Roaster 9D Creative and Joe's Racing Products Toyota. Is Tyler Tanner out of Auburn, Washington, who paced second round practice just a day ago. See if that 65 is up for it. Yet again, first lap around for Tanner. He's going to put that number 65 about in the middle of the pack. No, it's up to 4th. 15.217 for Tyler Tanner. A great opening lap. He's going to be able to best it here. Second lap around, and Tyler Tanner will go to pole. 15.090. Tyler Tanner may not have a lot of experience around this track, but that certainly isn't going to slow down that car.
We've got 3 good cars left to go, including the driver who finished second in championship standings to close out 2023. Driving the Chevrolet, Wheeler Trucking, and Victory Custom Trailers, number 71 for the family-owned team this season. Out of Dryden, Michigan, here is Katie Hedinger, who in the offseason was given the NASCAR Young Driver Award at the Driver Diversity Awards Banquet. Hedinger's first lap through is going to clock in 18th fastest. Hedinger is one of the drivers who ran the late model stock portion of the Thanksgiving All-Star Classic here that Blake alluded to earlier. Finished 18th in that event, ironically. Second lap around for Hedinger is going to move her up in a big way to the top 5. Hedinger to 5th with a couple of cars to go.
Just a pair of drivers left to try and unseat Tyler Tanner at the top of the charts. This is one of 2 number 7 entries that we'll see out on the racetrack this afternoon. In the number 7, Appalachian Motorsports, Lonesome Highway Leather, and Church's Carpet Chevrolet out of Concord, North Carolina. Driver with a lot of experience around this area. It is the number 7 of Tyler Church. Somebody that really takes a liking to these type of abrasive racetracks, as he's got his hands full there in turns 3 and 4. See that lap scores him at the checkered flag. Number 7 to Tyler Church, a great lap there. His first one was faster, 5th fastest for Tyler Church, up into the top 5.
Our final car to take time, driving the Carson Hocevar Motorsports entry with Zach Dunson as his crew chief. In the 131 Motorsports Park, FCF Custom Fabrication and CNC Tech number 14. While the team is based out of Michigan, this driver hails from north of the border. It's Chase Pinsino. And if you've been around short track racing for a very long time, the Pinsino name rings through many short track series, including the old days of ASA competition back in the late 90s and early 2000s, where his family-owned race team helped field championship-winning efforts for both Tim and Johnny Sauter. Pinsino named to be the driver of this vehicle late in 2023. Caught up with him earlier. He was very calm, cool, collected, and he's going to clock in 25th fastest as the final car to be out on the racetrack, and that will mean that Tyler Tanner, initially from Washington, now calls Mooresville, North Carolina home, is our Mahle Pole Award winner to kick off the 2024 ZMAX Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear. What a run. See Tanner already there, able to celebrate the Pole Award honors with a check and plaque in hand. This driver, who made several NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series starts in the mid-2010s, said he hopes to run as many of these races as he can. Also plans to strap behind the wheel of the ASA Stars Tour in 2024. But this is quite the start for his Cars Tour Pro Late Model foray, as he is the fastest driver on the property here at Southern National Motorsports Park. Let's take a quick look at how the field fared in qualifying, with Tanner the pole sitter over that of Chris Wright, Caden Honeycutt, our most recent winner, third, Kyle Campbell with the new car to them, fourth, and Tyler Church, your top five.
And again, Eric, you can look at that top five and separated by less than a hundredth of a second. That is close. As we look throughout the rest of the top 10, it is tight, but yet at the top of the charts, it was Tyler Tanner who was standing there. Let's throw it down to James Pike, who's going to catch up with him.
Tyler Tanner, you almost made a point of the fact that you didn't have that much experience here at Southern National, and here you are, Mahle Pole Award winner for the opening race of the season. So I guess the lack of experience didn't matter all that much when it came to qualifying now, did it?
No, I guess not. I mean, running predominantly supers my entire life, I think that helps. You know, you get back in these, and the throttle control and everything's just a lot more forgiving, I guess is the easiest way to put it. But I was hoping to sneak in the high 90s there. I kind of got a little eager, maybe a little impatient. Crawled the thing sideways off of 2 a little bit, maybe hurt some of our time. But I think our car's all right. I think the 35 is pretty good. He just kind of botched his lap coming to the white there, so hurt both of his laps. But I think he's pretty good. There's 5 or 6 guys that have really good cars, and we'll just see how the race shakes out.
Tyler Tanner, Mahle Pistons Award winner number 1 in the 2024 season for the ZMAX Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear.
Thanks, Pike, the driver, initially from Auburn, Washington. Recently moved to Mooresville, North Carolina for opportunities like this. Is certainly trying to make the most of it. He will lead the field down for the green flag in the Egg Helm 100 just a short while from now. We're not going to be done just yet. We've got some extended pre-race coverage to get you ready for what's coming up later on this afternoon. The first race of the 2024 ZMAX Cars Tour season presented by Sound Gear from Southern National Motorsports Park. We'll be back right after this.